Chapter 571, The Deputy Sect Master Was Really a God You. TED by BXN0VL. C-M. A few seconds later, Yi Li's pale face regained its original color, and his weak body had recovered. Why didn't one notice that one was injured? Yi Li said lightly to Gao Ling. Gao Ling was shocked to hear that. She looked at Yi Li in a daze and found that Yi Li had changed. What's going on? Gao Ling was puzzled. Yi Li smiled leisurely and said slowly, because one can heal any injury. Gao Ling certainly didn't believe Yi Li's words. Although she knew that Yi Li's strength was extremely terrifying, this was really unbelievable. Of course, Yi Li had already seen through Gao Ling's disbelief. No one could escape the detection of the heavenly spirit eyes. Look, there's a snake there. Yi Li pointed in a direction. A snake. Gao Ling looked in the direction Yi Li was pointing and found a bamboo green snake crawling. Deputy Sect Master, one really don't understand. This little snake is... Before Gao Ling finished speaking, she heard a wind-breaking sound. Swish. In shock, Gao Ling looked at the little snake again and found that it had been cut in half. Snakes were extremely strong. Even if they were cut in half, they wouldn't completely die. As for Yi Li's healing technique, as long as a creature didn't die, it could be treated. Then, Yi Li slowly raised his palm, and a gentle white spiritual energy went towards the little snake. A miracle happened just like that. Looking at the scene in front of her, Gao Ling's pupils couldn't help but constrict quickly because the broken body of the snake had actually recombined. How is this possible? Gao Ling couldn't believe it. She really couldn't believe it, but the truth was right in front of her eyes. How could she not believe it? Now, do you believe what I said? Yi Li slowly said. How could she not believe such a magical divine technique when it appeared in front of Gao Ling? The Deputy Sect Master was really a god. Gao Ling really worshipped Yi Li. The current Yi Li was her lifelong faith. Yi Li smiled. Hearing Gao Ling's praise, his handsome face didn't change at all. He had heard too many such praises. Alright, let's go back to the Sword Sect. Immediately, Gao Ling and Yi Li walked towards the Sword Sect. Sword Sect, Sword Palace. In the hall, the Sword Sect Master, Gao Feng, and the 9 Peak Masters all walked back and forth. They felt more and more that Yi Li was quite strange. He was clearly seriously injured. Why didn't he see a doctor? Could it be? Gao Feng suddenly thought of a shocking possibility, which struck him like a bolt from the blue. Oh my god! He wondered if Yi Li's injuries were too serious and couldn't be treated. He didn't want to return to the Sword Sect because, what an astonishing possibility. Seeing the Sect Master's exclamation, the 9 Peak Masters were all stunned. Before they could ask anything, they heard a voice from outside the hall. Deputy Sect Master, you're back. Yi Li was now the pillar of the Sword Sect. When Gao Feng and the 9 Peak Masters heard this, they hurriedly walked out of the hall. Seeing that it was indeed Yi Li, they were all overjoyed. Deputy Sect Master, it's great that you're fine. Gao Feng bowed to Yi Li. Although Yi Li was the Deputy Sect Master, Gao Feng was sincerely grateful to Yi Li. If it weren't for Yi Li, Sword City would have been plunged into misery and suffering when the zombies besieged the city. Chapter 572, Great Event in the Wasteland U. TED by BXN0VL. C-M. Yi Li, Gao Feng, and the others returned to the Sword Palace. Deputy Sect Master, I don't think Tang Lin will let it go. A Peak Master said to Yi Li, Humph. Before Yi Li could speak, Gao Feng snorted and said coldly, so what? At most, we'll fight to the death. But Tang Lin's master, as soon as he said this, everyone in the Sword Palace fell silent. Yi Li smiled indifferently. He didn't ask further. It was obvious that the Sword Sect couldn't resist Gao Lin's master. He looked at the ceiling of the Sword Palace and said slowly to himself, it seems that a fierce battle is coming soon. A few days later, there was turmoil in the wasteland. A large number of zombies rushed to Sword City. Passing by the bases of the major forces were preparing to destroy the zombie army. However, the leading zombie was a Lord-level zombie. A Lord-level zombie equaled a chosen one. No force dared to take action because the consequences of their action would be that their organization would be instantly annihilated. They could only release the news. However, what the major forces in the wasteland didn't expect was that there were a large number of zombies heading towards Sword City in many places, led by a Lord-level zombie. According to statistics, 8 Lord-level zombies led an army of zombies to one place. High-leveled zombies kept joining them, and a mighty super zombie army, like a black cloud pressing down, made the major forces in the wasteland tremble in fear. Of course, the 8 Lord-level zombies were Yili's Apocalypse Legion. Yili knew that there would be a big battle soon, so he recalled the Apocalypse Legion. At this point, all the major forces in the wasteland had learned of this matter, and the news spread further and further. After the battle in Sword City, Yili asked the Apocalypse Legion to go to various places in the wasteland to make a name. They seemed to have descended from the sky and arrived at the gathering places of zombies in the wasteland. During this period, they said more than one sentence, which was, "Our master is the Demon King, Yili." Although the major forces in the wasteland had never seen the Demon King Yili, this name was like thunder in the world, known to everyone. If the other forces didn't know who the Demon King Yili was, the Heavenly Blade Sect did, and they knew it very well. Heavenly Blade Sect. At this moment, Tang Lin, the master of the Heavenly Knife Sect, was recuperating. He didn't have the healing art like Yili. After being so seriously injured, he naturally had to take a good rest. "Master, I've already sent someone to report to the Four Weapons Hall. One believe the people from the Four Weapons Hall will be here soon." Shi Yun looked at Tang Lin and said. Before Tang Lin graduated, he was the eldest disciple of the Broadsword Palace of the Four Weapons Hall. The Four Weapons Hall was a super force in the Mystic Land. It had more than hundreds of thousands of disciples and comprised the 4 palaces of broadsword, spear, axe, and rod. After a few days of recuperation, Tang Lin looked better. He narrowed his eyes and smiled coldly. "Demon King Yili. I didn't expect him to be able to control an army of zombies in addition to being so powerful. Now millions of zombies are rushing to Sword City. When my master comes, the Heavenly Blade Sect will order all the major forces in the wasteland to subdue the Demon King." At this point, Tang Lin couldn't help but laugh coldly. At that time, all the major forces in the wasteland would think that Yili was an evil person. In fact, he was an evil person indeed. Otherwise, how could he control such high-leveled zombies? At that time, no matter how capable Yili was, there was nothing he could do. Chapter 573, Synthesize of Millions of Zombies Utted by Bexenville. M. After a few more days, the Apocalypse Legion had led the zombie army to Sword City. Outside the Sword Palace, Gao Ling and Yili stood together. "Deputy Sect Master, there are millions of zombies outside Sword City. How did you do it?" Gao Ling looked at Yili curiously. Yili smiled faintly. "Because I am the Demon King, Yili." Gao Ling was stunned. Wasn't this answer equivalent to not answering? "Come with me to the outside of the Sword City," Yili said slowly. Gao Ling nodded. Of course, she was willing to be with Yili. Not to mention outside the Sword City, she was willing to be with Yili in any place. Then, Yili and Gao Ling went out of the Sword City. At this moment, the outside of Sword City was already full of zombies. It was like a black cloud pressing down, making one's scalp tingle. Even Gao Ling, the eldest daughter of the Sword Sect, had never seen so many zombies. Suddenly, the 8 Lord-level zombies of the Apocalypse Legion flew over. "Master." The 8 Lord-level zombies greeted Yili respectfully. Yili nodded and then said, "There's another new member in the Apocalypse Legion. Let me introduce her to you." Immediately, Yili released Yu Zhu from the system space. Our little Yu Zhu looked at the Apocalypse Legion in front of her and couldn't help but take a few steps back in fright, her cute little face full of shock. This was the suppression from high-leveled zombies. Yu Zhu was only a S-tier master-level zombie now. Compared to the 8 zombies in the Apocalypse Legion, she was a whole realm away. Don't be afraid. They are your brothers and sisters. Yili touched little Yu Zhu's head and said. Yili introduced the zombies of the Apocalypse Legion to little Yu Zhu one by one. Da, Hongye, Bai Wawa, Yutong, Qi, Bone Maiden, Long Yu, Mou. Each of them was a lord-level zombie. What a cute little sister. Hongye squatted down and gently pinched little Yu Zhu's cheek. Little Yu Zhu swallowed and looked at Hongye in a daze. Sister Hongye, you're so beautiful. With that said, little Yu Zhu realized that she seemed to have missed something and hurriedly said, brothers and sisters are all very beautiful. In Yili's Apocalypse Legion, among the 8 lord-level zombies, except for Bai Wawa, the others were all handsome men and beautiful women. Although Bai Wawa's skin was like a baby's, he was fat and weighed at least 200 catties. By the way, Master, did something important happen that you suddenly summoned us back? Alda looked at Yili and asked. As the commander of the Apocalypse Legion, Alda had the most weight in the Apocalypse Legion. Yes. Yili told the Apocalypse Legion everything that happened in the past few days. After hearing this, the Apocalypse Legion naturally understood everything. In fact, in the face of a battle of powerhouses, the number of zombies was useless, but in a battle with an army, the number of zombies mattered. Therefore, Yili was going to synthesize the millions of zombies outside the Sword City. Do it. Yili slowly said to the Apocalypse Legion. Then, the Apocalypse Legion, including little Yu Zhu, began to attack. Even if it was a batch synthesis, the number of millions of zombies was shocking. After 5 days, Yili finally synthesized millions of zombies. He didn't upgrade the Apocalypse Legion, but synthesized the millions of zombies with Ada. Chapter 574, Xianyuan Sword Trial uttered by Baxenville. Omicron M. Ding. Alda has been upgraded to a 5th-tier lord-level zombie. Yili thought that the level of these zombies was too low. Most of them were level 1 zombies. It was too difficult to synthesize Ada into a higher-leveled zombie. Congratulations to the host for upgrading to a Tier 3 Chosen One. At this moment, the system's voice resounded in Yili's mind. Yili was stunned. He was a Tier 1 Chosen One before, but now he had directly become a Tier 3 Chosen One. Now who could he reason with? He thought that there must be too many synthesized zombies, so he jumped realms. Ding! Triggered, Xianyuan Sword Trial. As the saying went, luck couldn't be stopped. Then, Yili entered an unfamiliar space. This space was a little different from the space he had entered before. It was as if he had entered the 18th level of hell. There was magma everywhere, and there were malevolent spirits everywhere. It was terrifying. But Yili's handsome face didn't change at all. Since transmigrating to this parallel world, there had been dozens of fierce battles, and wherever he went, blood flowed like a river. He was not afraid of anything, let alone malevolent spirits. These malevolent spirits were huge and had countless cracks on their bodies. The cracks were filled with hellfire, and they held hell's spiritual weapons like mountains. Clang! A cold light appeared, and the supreme divine weapon, the ancient dragon abyss sword, appeared in Yili's hand. Roar! Suddenly, dozens of malevolent spirits roared and rushed at Yili. Each of these malevolent spirits had the strength of a chosen one. In other words, Yili was facing dozens of malevolent spirits with the strength of a chosen one alone. If it were an ordinary Tier 3 chosen one, he would probably have no better ending than death. But could Yili be like an ordinary Tier 3 chosen one? Yili activated the 2nd level of the ancient dragon abyss sword embryo. In an instant, sword intent burst out. He slashed out the heaven-shaking sword technique and the sky fiend sword technique. The two heaven-grade sword techniques were both large-scale killing techniques, and their strength was enough to destroy the world. In an instant, several malevolent spirits were killed. Swish! With a wind-breaking sound, Yili had already disappeared. Swish! 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 With a cold flash, the terrifying sword light slashed at every malevolent spirit. After a while, dozens of malevolent spirits died. Ding! Congratulations, host, for completing the dragon-slaying blade trial. Congratulations to the host for upgrading the ancient dragon abyss sword embryo to the 3rd level. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a chance to upgrade all your skills to the heaven-defying level. Hearing the system's words, Yili was excited. The reward this time was really terrifying. How terrifying was the chance to upgrade all his skills to the heaven-defying level. Ding! Host, the Xianyuan sword wants to recognize you as its master. Do you want to accept it? Yes. Yili didn't hesitate at all. The Xianyuan sword starts to recognize you as its master. 10%. 30%. 60%. 100%. The Xianyuan sword has successfully acknowledged you as its master. The system's voice rang. Yili smiled faintly. He returned to the real world from the unfamiliar space. Now, his skills had been improved. The demon god domineering fist, the annihilation finger, the heaven-shaking sword technique, and the sky fiend sword technique had all been upgraded to the heaven-defying level. Yili had thought that the zombies in the Apocalypse Legion could also be upgraded, but it seemed that he was wrong. Now that the sword intent of his ancient dragon abyss sword had reached the 3rd level, his strength was many times stronger than before. He could easily suppress someone like Tang Lin. Chapter 575, The 11 Women Came Out of Seclusion Utted by Bexenville. See Omicron M now, it was time to fuse the Xianyuan sword into the ancient dragon abyss sword. Fuse. A few seconds later, the Xianyuan sword fused into the ancient dragon abyss sword. After the fusion of the sword light of the Xianyuan sword, the ancient dragon abyss sword was much more terrifying than before. Deputy Sect Master, you are too terrifying. Only you can do this in this world. Gao Ling looked at Yili and said. Yili smiled faintly and slowly said, maybe. At this moment, a disciple of the Sword Sect suddenly arrived outside the Sword City. Before the disciple of the Sword Sect could speak, he saw the 9 zombies in the Apocalypse Legion. He was so frightened that his true soul left his body. What are you afraid of? Gao Ling glared at the Sword Sect disciple. The disciples of the Sword Sect had seen the Apocalypse Legion in the last battle in Sword City, but that was very far away. Now that it was right in front of them, how could they not be afraid? Deputy Sect Master, Miss, the Sect Master asked me to call you back. Miss Xiao Hui and the others have come out of seclusion, the Sword Sect disciple said. Oh. Yili smiled. Then, Yili took the 9 zombies and high spirits of the Apocalypse Legion back to the Sword Sect. Xiao Hui, Yun Yun Man, Su Suner, Lu Qian, Lu Qingxue, Qian Ruxue, Luo Yu, Luo Li, Ziqiong, Ling Fei, Li Yanlu. The 11 women were the Beauty Legion in the Apocalypse Legion. However, their current strength was too low and they were really not suitable for fighting. They were the disciples of the Sword Sect Sect Master, Gao Feng, so they were naturally in the Sword Palace and didn't belong to any of the 10 peaks of the Sword Sect. After Yili arrived outside the Sword Palace, the 11 women came up to him. Senior. The 11 women shouted at Yili in unison. Yili nodded and found that the realms of the 11 women had all improved. However, it was still not enough. Li Yanlu was already a 7th-tier transcender. She was originally only a Tier 3 transcender. Yili didn't know what method Gao Feng used, but the other 10 women's realms were the same. This was something Yili didn't expect. The 10 women were all 10th-tier evolved beings. As long as they went further, they could become transcenders. Yi Li chatted with the 11 women for a while more, and a peak master walked out of the sword palace. Deputy Sect Master, the Sect Master has something to discuss with you. The peak master said respectfully to Yi Li. Yi Li didn't say much and walked into the hall with the peak master. He didn't let the Apocalypse Legion follow them in. The 11 women hadn't seen the Apocalypse Legion for a long time, and he would just let them talk nicely. Yi Li and the peak master entered the hall, and Gao Feng hurriedly invited Yi Li to sit down. Sect Master, is the Heavenly Blade sect going to attack again? Yi Li looked at Gao Feng and asked. Gao Feng nodded. Yes, Deputy Sect Master. The Heavenly Blade sect is no longer the same as before. The 9 peak masters all looked solemn. Yi Li smiled and said indifferently, what do you mean, Sect Master? Gao Feng sighed heavily and said after a few seconds, I wonder if you have heard of the 4 Weapons Hall. Then, Gao Feng told Yi Li everything about the 4 Weapons Hall. Although Yi Li didn't think of this, there was no surprise on his handsome face. He was even more interested in the Mystic Land, which was much stronger than the Wasteland. Deputy Sect Master, I called you over just to see how you think we should resist it. Gao Feng looked at Yi Li, there's nothing to be afraid of. Isn't it just the Heavenly Blade sect? Isn't it just the 4 Weapons Hall? Yi Li slowly said. As soon as he said this, Gao Feng and the 9 peak masters were all stunned. Chapter 576, Unfortunately, you missed one thing uttered by Bexenville. Siamacron M. Gao Feng pondered for a few seconds and then said to Yi Li, Deputy Sect Master, the 4 Weapons Hall is not something we can afford to offend. That's right, Deputy Sect Master. Now that Tang Lin's master, Li Qianquan, has arrived at the Heavenly Blade sect, the Heavenly Blade sect is no longer the Heavenly Blade sect from a few days ago. A peak master also said to Yi Li. Yi Li smiled faintly. So you're afraid? After they fought Tang Lin and both sides suffered heavy losses back then, Gao Feng and the peak masters said firmly, well, deal with whatever comes our way. Now they were already so frightened before the soldiers even arrived, which made Yi Li feel a little funny. However, Yi Li wouldn't blame them because this was human nature. Gao Lin's master, Li Qianquan, was known as Qianquan Broadsword Master. His meteorite broadsword terrifies everyone even in the Mystic Land, not to mention the Wasteland. Gao Feng and the 9 peak masters looked at Yi Li, waiting for Yi Li's reply. A few seconds later, Yi Li looked at Gao Feng and the 9 peak masters indifferently and slowly said, Unfortunately, you missed one thing. When Gao Feng heard this, he hurriedly asked, What is it? The Heavenly Blade sect is no longer the Heavenly Blade sect of the past, and am I still the Yi Li of the past? Gao Feng and the 9 peak masters didn't expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Deputy Sect Master, do you mean? Gao Feng didn't finish. He looked at Yi Li in confusion. Yi Li smiled. Just wait. When the time comes, you will know that Li Qianquan is nothing in front of me. Domineering, absolutely domineering. Gao Feng and the 9 peak masters looked at Yi Li. For some reason, their blood was boiling again. Back then, they were also people who dominated the Wasteland. Wherever they went, they made many people tremble in fear. Then, Yi Li walked out of the hall. The Apocalypse Legion, the 11 women, and Gao Ling walked over. Senior, did something big happen? We are very powerful now. Xiao Hui looked at Yi Li and smiled happily. Yi Li was amused and slowly said, What if one tell you that the opponent the sword sect will face will be a super powerful existence? As soon as he said this, the 11 women and Gao Ling were all stunned. Senior, who are you referring to? Xiao Hu's cute little face was full of confusion. Li Qianquan. Yi Li slowly said word by word. What? Gao Ling gasped. The 11 women had never heard of Li Qianquan, nor did they know who he was. Sister Gao Ling, who is Li Qianquan? Xiao Hui looked at Gao Ling in confusion. Gao Ling calmed herself down and then told the 11 women everything she knew about Li Qiankuan. The expression on the 11 women's faces had changed from curiosity to shock, and then to extreme shock. Senior, well, the 11 women all looked at Yi Li, and then they all looked worried. Are you worried about me? Yi Li said lightly. Before the 11 women or Gao Ling could speak, Yi Li spoke again. Don't worry about me forever, because no one in this world can do anything to me, Yi Li. As soon as he said so, the ancient dragon abyss sword appeared in his hand. The sword pointed at the sky. Suddenly, a supreme sword light rushed into the sky, shocking everyone. Boom! An earth-shaking sound appeared, and the sky had already split into two sides, giving off an extremely visual impact. Chapter 577, Who was willing to go to the sword sect? Edited by Bexenville. See Omicron M. The 11 women and Gao Ling were stunned. The power of this sword was too terrifying. Yi Li smiled faintly. He looked at the 11 women and Gao Ling and slowly said, What do you think of this slash? The 11 women and Gao Ling were speechless. They looked at Yi Li dumbfounded. So, you don't have to worry at all. As I said, the person who can kill me, Yi Li, is not born yet, Yi Li said frankly. Heavenly Blade Sect. In the hall of the Heavenly Blade Sect, there was an old man sitting on the throne above. The old man looked cold and his eyes were like eagle's eyes, giving off a dignified aura. The old man was none other than Qiankuan Broadsword Master, Li Qiankuan, the master of Tang Lin. Li Qiankuan was the master of the Broadsword Palace of the Four Weapons Hall in the Mystic Land. He was an 8th-tier chosen one. Tang Lin sat on Li Qiankuan's left, and below him were the elders of the Heavenly Blade Sect. Tang Lin, is the Demon King Yi Li you mentioned really so powerful? Li Qiankuan looked at Tang Lin and asked. Upon hearing this, Tang Lin immediately became serious. Yes, Master. That Demon King Yi Li is only a tier 1 chosen one, but he and I were seriously injured by each other. Upon hearing this, Li Qiankuan stroked his beard and narrowed his eyes. I didn't expect there to be such a genius in this world. A tier 1 chosen one fought a tier 3 chosen one into a draw. It's simply unbelievable. Tang Lin sneered. However, the Demon King Yi Li is like an ant in front of Master. He's really pitifully weak. Ha ha ha. Li Qiankuan laughed out loud when he heard that. He felt that Tang Lin was right. No matter what kind of genius the Demon King Yi Li was, he was just an ant in front of him and had no chance of winning. Master, should we attack the Heavenly Blade Sect now? Tang Lin said respectfully to Li Qiankuan. Suddenly, a disdainful smile appeared on Li Qiankuan's old face. It's just a small demon king. He's not qualified to let me go at all. Let him come and be killed by me, Li Qiankuan said indifferently. Tang Lin was stunned. But Master, I'm afraid the Demon King Yi Li won't listen. Before Tang Lin finished speaking, Li Qiankuan interrupted him. Just use my name. I don't believe that the Demon King Yi Li dares not to come. If he really doesn't come, I guarantee that I will destroy his body and soul. Li Qiankuan sneered. Tang Lin smiled bitterly to himself. At that time, he had the same idea as Li Qiankuan. He asked Grand Elder Wang Changming to ask Yi Li to come. But Wang Changming's ending, I wonder who is willing to go to the sword sect. Tang Lin looked at the elders and asked. Well, hearing this, all the elders in the hall looked at each other in bewilderment. They had seen the strength of the Demon King, Yi Li. If they went there, they would definitely die. Who is willing to go to the sword sect? Tang Lin asked again. All the elders fell silent. No one dared to speak. After all, who was willing to die? Seeing this, Tang Lin couldn't help but be a little angry. The dignified Heavenly Blade sect actually chose to be a coward. How could he not be angry? Master, I'm willing to go to the sword sect. At this moment, a voice entered everyone's ears. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice, only to find that the person who spoke was none other than the eldest disciple of the Heavenly Blade sect, Shi Yun. Shi Yun was an absolute genius in the wasteland. He and Gao Ling of the Sword sect were known as a dragon and a phoenix, and he was the future sect master of the Heavenly Knife sect. Chapter 578, Shi Yun went to the Sword sect. Edited by Bexenville. M. Tang Lin was a little stunned. He didn't expect Shi Yun to say such a thing. Although Shi Yun was an absolute genius in the wasteland, he was only a 5th-tier transcender. If he went to the Sword sect, he would die. Shi Yun, you can't go. Tang Lin said to Shi Yun. Shi Yun, on the other hand, looked proud as if he was not afraid at all. Master, if the Heavenly Blade sect doesn't even dare to go to the Sword sect, is our Heavenly Blade sect still the #1 sect in the wasteland? Now that Master Qiankuan is guarding the Heavenly Blade sect, I don't believe Demon King Yili dares to do anything to me. It was not difficult to see that Shi Yun was very confident. Hearing this, Tang Lin looked at Li Qiankuan and then at Shi Yun. Then, he gritted his teeth and agreed. Okay, but you have to be careful. Hearing Tang Lin agree, a grim smile appeared on Shi Yun's handsome face. In the past few days, he had heard the words, Demon King Yili, countless times. He didn't go to the battle between Yili and Tang Lin last time. He was completely unfamiliar with the Demon King Yili, Master, going. With that, Shi Yun disappeared. Yili sat under a tilted tree, feeling a little bored. He wondered why the Heavenly Blade sect hadn't come to him. Did the Heavenly Blade sect admit defeat? Now his name was known by everyone in the wasteland. Anyone who heard his name would probably take 3 steps back in fright. At this moment, a disciple of the Sword sect walked over. Deputy Sect Master, someone from the Heavenly Blade sect has come. As soon as he said this, Yili's handsome face lit up. He had just wondered why the Heavenly Blade sect hadn't come to cause trouble for him, and they had come now. Then, Yili and the disciple of the Sword sect walked to a place. Soon, Yili saw the people from the Heavenly Blade sect. However, he was greatly disappointed. He would never have thought that the Heavenly Blade sect only sent a 5th-tier transcender over. What a joke. Gao Feng and the 9 Peak Masters were also there. They stared at the 5th-tier transcender in front of them. This 5th-tier transcender was none other than Shi Yun. The Deputy Sect Master is here. A voice entered everyone's ears. Everyone quickly looked in the direction of the voice and found Yili walking over slowly. Shi Yun stared at Yili. As soon as he saw Yili, he couldn't stay calm anymore. He had absolute confidence in his appearance, but compared to Yili in front of him, the difference was like heaven and earth. Besides, there was an insurmountable gap in strength between them. For a moment, Shi Yun couldn't help but secretly be angry. Are you the Demon King, Yili? Shi Yun stared at Yili and said coldly. That's right. Yili nodded. Shi Yun calmed down, then looked at Yili and said, since you are the Demon King Yili, come with me. Where are we going? Yili looked at Shi Yun. Shi Yun sneered. The Heavenly Blade sect, of course. Yili also smiled when he heard that. He couldn't help but laugh. Do you think a mere 5th-tier transcender like you is worthy of making me go to the Heavenly Blade sect? Yili's handsome face was full of mockery. You. Shi Yun gritted his teeth. Demon King Yili, Qiankuan Broadsword Master wants you to go to the Heavenly Blade sect. Chapter 579, You Are Already Dead. Edited by Bexenville. Yili looked at Shi Yun casually. Qiankuan Broadsword Master wants me to go to the Heavenly Blade sect? Yes. Shi Yun nodded. He had Qiankuan Broadsword Master and the Heavenly Blade sect to rely on, so he didn't have to be afraid of Yili at all. What if one don't go? Yili looked at Shi Yun playfully. Shi Yun was shocked because he didn't know how to answer. He was only a 5th-tier transcender, but the other party could kill him thousands of times in an instant. However, Shi Yun suddenly sneered to himself. Although the Demon King Yili was outrageously strong, he certainly had to be afraid of Qianquan Broadsword Master. Therefore, he was sure that Yili wouldn't dare to do anything to him. Demon King Yili, you are just an ant in front of Qianquan Broadsword Master. Qianquan Broadsword Master only needs one blow to destroy your body and soul. If you go to the Heavenly Blades sect, you might have a chance of survival. If you don't, not only you, but even the entire sword sect will disappear from this world forever. In fact, even if Yili went to the Heavenly Blades sect, the Heavenly Blades sect would never let him and the sword sect off. This was just Shi Yun's excuse. Yili smiled faintly. He looked at Shi Yun up and down for a few seconds and then shook his head regretfully. What a pity. What's a pity? Shi Yun widened his eyes and asked quickly. Do you know that you were already dead when you said that just now? Yili slowly said. As soon as he said this, Shi Yun's pupils were constricted. He would never have dreamed that Yili would say such a thing. What? What do you want? Until now, Shi Yun finally panicked. Yili's handsome face was calm. He said slowly, I don't want anything. One just want your life. No. You can't kill me. Qianquan Broadsword Master is my master's master. If you kill me, he will definitely, swish. As a wind-breaking sound sounded, Shi Yun covered his neck with both hands. His eyes were wide open, and his face was full of disbelief. He couldn't believe that he had died just like that. Then, Shi Yun fell to the ground, no longer alive. Yili looked at Shi Yun's corpse indifferently and slowly shook his head. Shi Yun could have had a beautiful life, but he made a mistake. His mistake was to provoke Yili. Gao Feng and the 9 Peak Masters looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Now it was inevitable to start a full-scale war with the Heavenly Blade sect. Gao Feng looked at Yili. Now that things had come to this point, he could only choose to believe Yili. Deputy Sect Master, what should we do with Shi Yun's corpse? Gao Feng looked at Yili. Whatever, Yili replied casually. Then, Gao Feng asked someone to carry Shi Yun's body down. Yuner. Tang Lin shouted. Looking at Shi Yun's life card that had been burnt up, his eyes turned red. If the life card was burnt up, it meant that this person was already dead. The elders of the Heavenly Blades sect were also furious. They had been nurturing Shi Yun as the next sect master, but now he had died in the sword sect. How could they not be angry? Li Qianquan stood with his hands behind his back, a cold smile on his old face. Demon King Yili, you are really bold. Chapter 580, All-Out War uttered by Bexenville. CM, gather everyone. Tang Lin said coldly, his eyes red. His most beloved disciple was dead. He wanted revenge. Li Qianquan didn't stop Tang Lin. He was getting more and more interested in Yili. His intuition told him that the Demon King, Yili, should be a very arrogant person, just like him. Unfortunately, he, Li Qianquan, was certainly qualified to be arrogant, but how could the Demon King Yili be qualified to be arrogant in front of him? At that time, with a casual blow, the Demon King Yili would die on the spot. Not long after, all the disciples of the Heavenly Blades sect were successfully gathered. Led by Li Qianquan, Tang Lin, and the 10 Grand Elders, tens of thousands of people headed towards the sword sect. A disciple of the sword sect ran into the hall and said in panic, Sect Master, Sect Master. The Heavenly Blades sect is coming to the sword sect and has mobilized all the disciples in the sect. As soon as he said this, Gao Feng and the 9 Peak Masters were all shocked. Then, they calmed down. They had already expected a full-scale war with the Heavenly Blades sect. There was nothing to be surprised about. They were mainly afraid of Qianquan Broadsword Master, Li Qianquan. Li Qianquan was an 8th-tier chosen one. Immediately, Gao Feng and the 9 Peak Masters all looked at Yi Li, only to find that Yi Li's handsome face didn't change at all, as if he didn't hear them. Deputy Sect Master, what do you think we should do? A Peak Master looked at Yi Li and asked. Yi Li smiled faintly. Don't panic. They haven't arrived yet. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Li picked up the teacup and slowly drank the tea. Gao Feng and the 9 Peak Masters were stunned. They didn't expect Yi Li to be so calm at a time like this. Yi Li was now a Tier 3 Chosen One and had the 3rd level of the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword. His weapon was the Supreme Divine Weapon, the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword. However, compared to the Knife Master, Li Qianquan, there was definitely a world of difference. After all, this was the difference between an 8th Tier Chosen One and a 3rd Tier Chosen One. Yi Li had already thought it through. At most, he would fuse the Apocalypse Legion into his body. Although this would make him fall asleep, it couldn't be helped. At this moment, the system's voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining a random lottery chance. Yi Li used this chance to draw the lottery without hesitation. Immediately, the virtual pointer began to spin in the roulette wheel, and a few seconds later, the pointer stopped. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a chance to be immune to zombie fusion. Zombie fusion immunity opportunity. It can fuse zombies into the host's body without any side effects. This cheat, Yi Li didn't know what to say. It was simply terrifying. His 4 current skills were all at the heaven-defying level. In addition to the 8 heaven-grade skills of the Apocalypse Legion, and the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword Embryo was on the 3rd level. Most importantly, Ada was now a 5th Tier Lord level zombie. Without any of the conditions, he couldn't beat Li Qianquan. After all, an 8th Tier Chosen One was too terrifying. A moment later, a disciple of the Sword Sect ran into the hall in fright. Deputy Sect Master, the people from the Heavenly Blade Sect, the people from the Heavenly Blade Sect have arrived outside the Sword City. The Sword Sect disciple trembled. Upon hearing this, Gao Feng looked at Yi Li and found that Yi Li was still extremely indifferent. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "All disciples of the Sword Sect, fight, the Heavenly Blade Sect." Then, among the more than 7,000 disciples of the Sword Sect, Gao Ling and the 11 women were naturally among them. Led by Gao Feng, Yi Li, and the 9 Peak Masters, they all went to the Sword City. Chapter 581, Battle starts uttered by Bexenville. CM Sword City. The Heavenly Blade Sect and the Sword Sect were already confronting each other. A shocking battle was about to break out. Demon King Yi Li. Tang Lin gritted his teeth and stared at Yi Li. Yi Li looked calm. He looked at Tang Lin indifferently. "Why are you so angry?" As soon as he said this, not only Tang Lin, but everyone in the Heavenly Blade Sect was shocked. Why was he so angry? Not to mention that Grand Elder Wang Changming had died in the Sword Sect. Even Shi Yun, the heavenly talent of the Heavenly Blade Sect, had died in the Heavenly Blade Sect. Now Yi Li asked Tang Lin why he was so angry. "Demon King Yi Li, I'm going to tear you into pieces and let you taste the most pain in the world." Tang Lin's tone was terrifyingly grim. Yi Li smiled calmly. "It's a pity that you're not that capable." Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a slightly old laugh entered everyone's ears. "Demon King Yi Li, how dare you say such a thing in front of me? Do you really not know how to write the word death?" The person who spoke was none other than Qianquan Broadsword Master, Li Qianquan. Yi Li could tell that the old man was Li Qianquan. Before he could speak, Li Qianquan continued, "Demon King Yi Li, what are you waiting for? Come and die." In Li Qianquan's opinion, Yi Li was already a dead person with no chance of survival. Everyone from the Sword Sect looked at each other in bewilderment. Of course, they had heard of Li Qianquan. In their eyes, such an existence was a supreme powerhouse. "Li Qianquan, do you really believe your eyes?" Yi Li slowly said. As soon as he said this, everyone from the Heavenly Blades sect and the Sword sect was stunned, not understanding what Yi Li meant. Li Qiankuan sneered. Not only do one believe in my own eyes, but one can also see your corpse soon. In that case, come on. Yi Li slowly hooked his finger at Li Qiankuan. Seeing this, Li Qiankuan was furious. Brat, you don't even know that you're about to die. Attack! Li Qiankuan shouted angrily. With Li Qiankuan's order, the tens of thousands of disciples of the Heavenly Blades sect began to rush over. The scene was magnificent. Seeing that the Heavenly Blades sect had taken action, Gao Feng, the sect master of the Sword sect, shouted, "Attack!" Immediately, the thousands of disciples of the Sword sect also rushed over. The disciples of the Heavenly Blades sect and the Sword sect were locked in a melee. The sound of fighting shook the heavens and the earth, and the scene began to become tragic. Then, Tang Lin, the 10 Grand Elders, Gao Feng, and the 9 Peak Masters also joined the battle. Li Qiankuan and Yi Li stared at each other as if they couldn't see anyone else but each other. Swish! Suddenly, Li Qiankuan and Yi Li jumped into the air almost at the same time. Demon King Yi Li, one really don't understand why you can still be so calm. Don't you know that one can kill you with one blow? Really? How can a person like you change? I think only death can change you, but you don't dare to die, so one can only help you. Hearing Yi Li's words, Li Qiankuan burst into fury. He opened his hand and a meteorite broadsword appeared in his hand. Demon King Yi Li, I allow you to show your weapon before you die. Li Qiankuan stared at Yi Li and said. Yi Li didn't hide anything and directly released the ancient dragon abyss sword and the Apocalypse Legion from the system space. However, he didn't release little Yu Zhu. After all, little Yu Zhu was only a S-tier master-level zombie now. Chapter 582, Fight Li Qiankuan utted by Bexenville. CM Li Qiankuan looked at the ancient dragon abyss sword in Yi Li's hand and couldn't help being stunned. He had a feeling that the meteorite broadsword in his hand was simply scrap metal compared to the ancient dragon abyss sword in Yi Li's hand. As for the zombie behind Yi Li, when Tang Lin told him about it, he didn't believe him, but now it seemed that it was true. Demon King Yi Li could really control such a high-leveled zombie. Demon King Yi Li, I didn't expect you to be so interesting. Li Qiankuan came back to his senses and smiled at Yi Li. At this moment, the Heavenly Blades sect and the Sword sect were still fighting, and more people fell. Li Qiankuan was an 8th tier chosen one, and Yi Li was a tier 3 chosen one. The gap in strength was too huge. Without thinking too much, Yi Li chose to fuse the Apocalypse Legion into his body. Anyway, there was a zombie fusion immunity chance. Fuse. Suddenly, the 8 Lord-level zombies of the Apocalypse Legion fused into Yi Li's body. Immediately, Yi Li became a chosen one of the 7th tier. Although there was only a small gap between a 7th tier chosen one and an 8th tier chosen one, there was still an insurmountable gap. Unfortunately, Yi Li could synthesize skills, and the skills he synthesized were at least heaven grade. How is this possible? Li Qiankuan was stunned. A second ago, Yi Li was still a tier 3 chosen one. How did he become a 7th tier chosen one in the next second? It was not until this moment that Li Qiankuan finally understood why Yi Li could be so calm. It turned out that he had something to rely on. Demon King Yi Li, one didn't expect you to have such a secret method. Li Qiankuan came back to his senses and said coldly to Yi Li, however, one still only need one blow to kill you. As soon as he said so, a sonic boom sounded, and Li Qiankuan disappeared. After Yi Li integrated into the Apocalypse Legion, he had already caught sight of Li Qiankuan. He smiled evilly and activated the 3rd level of the ancient dragon abyss sword embryo. In an instant, his sword intent reached its peak. Swish! Yi Li slashed out. After fusing with the Xianyuan sword, the sword light of the ancient dragon abyss sword was many times more terrifying than before. The sword light flew towards Li Qianquan. Li Qianquan was secretly surprised. He didn't expect Yi Li to be able to catch his figure. Having no choice, Li Qianquan could only slash out a terrifying broadsword beam with the meteorite broadsword. Boom! In the end, there was a shocking bang in the sky, and the knife light and sword light offset each other. At this moment, the Heavenly Blades sect and the Swords sect stopped at the same time and looked at the peerless battle in midair. Demon King Yi Li, your sword light can actually block my knife light. Li Qianquan stared at Yi Li. Yi Li sneered. Not only can I block your knife light, but one can also kill you with one blow. Yi Li didn't speak loudly, but everyone from the Heavenly Blades sect and the Swords sect heard him. Hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded. One had to know that Li Qianquan was an 8th tier chosen one. Demon King Yi Li actually said that he could kill him in one go. No one would believe it. Ha ha ha. Li Qianquan laughed out loud because he had heard the funniest joke in history. He, Li Qianquan, had dominated the mystic land for decades, but he had never seen anyone as arrogant as Yi Li. Now he had met one in this small wasteland. What are you laughing at? Yi Li looked at Li Qianquan in confusion. I'm laughing at your shameless boasting. You're just a pitiful ant. How dare you talk nonsense in front of me? Li Qianquan said coldly. Chapter 583, Qianquan Blade Master Li Qianquan perished utted by Bexenville. CM, Humph. Is Demon King Yi Li crazy? How dare he speak so arrogantly to my master? Tang Lin said coldly. That's right. Qianquan Broadsword Master can definitely kill Yi Li in an instant. Does he really think he can survive? For a moment, the people of the Heavenly Blades sect mocked Yi Li. In midair, Li Qianquan sneered with extreme disdain on his old face. Demon King Yi Li, although one don't know what secret method you used to raise your realm to the 7th tier chosen one, do you really think that's enough? Next, I'll show you how strong I am. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Qianquan raised his meteorite broadsword high, and star flames had already condensed on it. Yi Li looked at Li Qianquan and secretly shook his head. Why was no one willing to believe him? Since Li Qianquan didn't believe him, he could only let him believe him. Then, he began to synthesize skills. The Demon God Domineering Fist, the Annihilation Finger, the Heaven-Shaking Sword Technique, and the Sky Fiend Sword Technique were all heaven-defying level skills. They were much stronger than the previous heaven-grade skills. Then, he synthesized the 8 heaven-grade skills of the Apocalypse Legion. 4 heaven-defying level skills and 8 heaven-grade skills synthesized into the Heaven and Earth Slash. The spiritual energy on the primordial dragon abyss sword burst out and began to stir. On the other hand, the star flames on Li Qianquan's meteorite broadsword had reached an absolutely terrifying level. Star Fiery Broadsword. Li Qianquan roared, and the extremely terrifying star flames flew at Yi Li. Everyone from the Heavenly Blades sect and the Swords sect watched this suffocating scene. Everyone in the Heavenly Blades sect knew that after this blow, there would be no Demon King Yi Li in this world. As for the people from the Swords sect, although they were unwilling to admit it, the gap in strength between Yi Li and Li Qianquan was too huge. The 11 women and Gao Ling gritted their teeth, their hearts in their throats. Yi Li looked at the star flames that were coming at him. The star flames' attack was definitely terrifying. Unfortunately, in front of his Heaven and Earth Slash, it was like hitting a stone with an egg. Heaven and Earth Slash. These words kept echoing in everyone's ears. A sword light thousands of meters long shot out. This slash cut open space. It was too terrifying. Boom! The sword light collided with the star flames, producing an earth-shaking bang. The clouds moved, and the ground shook. A strong wind suddenly rose, and the ground trembled violently. The sky became full of dark clouds, as if even the sky was afraid of such an attack. The people from the Heavenly Blades sect and the Sword sect fell limp to the ground. Such an attack was too terrifying. Their eyes widened for the largest time in history. They saw the star flames dispersed, and the sword light pierced through Li Qianqin's body. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, everyone in the Heavenly Blades sect was dumbfounded. They would rather believe that the sky was about to collapse than that it was true. Everyone in the Sword sect froze like clay sculptures. They naturally didn't expect this scene. Qianquan Broadsword Master, Li Qianquan, died. His corpse slowly fell from the sky. Fortunately, Yili had a zombie fusion immunity chance. Otherwise, he would have collapsed too. Seeing this, Tang Lin was scared out of his wits. Chapter 584, Destroy the Heavenly Blade sect utted by Bexenville. CM Tang Lin would never have thought that his master would lose to Yi Li and die. He really didn't expect it. The disciples of the Heavenly Blade sect were shocked. They were all horrified. At this moment, the Apocalypse Legion had already come out of Yi Li's body, and Yi Li slowly descended from the sky. Yi Li came to Gao Feng. The people from the Sword sect looked at Yi Li with deep admiration and horror. Yi Li had even killed Qianquan Broadsword Master, an 8th-tier chosen one. This was too terrifying. They could swear that they had never seen anyone as terrifying as Yi Li since they were born. Deputy Sect Master, the people of the Heavenly Knife Sect, the Sword Sect Master looked at Yi Li carefully and asked. Yi Li smiled faintly and slowly said, "If you're willing, let them go." Gao Feng's body trembled when he heard that. Of course, he wouldn't do that, because doing so was tantamount to releasing a tiger back to the mountain. Kill them! Gao Feng roared, and immediately, the people from the Sword sect began to rush out again. Tang Lin swallowed. He knew that he would die here today, but it was definitely useless to escape now. Kill! In an instant, the disciples of the Heavenly Blades sect rushed out, and a chaotic battle began again. If Yi Li didn't take action, the Heavenly Blades sect would naturally be stronger than the Sword sect. After all, Tang Lin was a Tier 3 chosen one, and Gao Feng was only a Tier 2 chosen one. Yi Li thought of himself as a good person who would see things through to the end. So he slowly raised his index finger, and white spiritual energy entangled it. Swish! With a wind-breaking sound, the heaven-defying level annihilation finger was launched at an astonishing speed. Now, Yi Li was also a Tier 3 chosen one. However, he was much stronger than Tang Lin. Tang Lin was fighting Gao Feng at this moment. How could he find such a terrifying attack coming at him? When he found it, it was too late. All! Tang Lin let out a scream, and his life disappeared from this world forever. Seeing that their sect master had also fallen, the people of the Heavenly Blades sect no longer wanted to fight. They all wanted to retreat, but without their backbone, how could the Heavenly Blades sect be a match for the Sword sect? The disciples of the Sword sect was getting braver and braver as they fought. The Heavenly Blades sect members began to scurry away, looking extremely shocked. Yi Li's handsome face didn't change at all. He knew that things were far from over. In the end, the Heavenly Blades sect that once dominated the wasteland was destroyed. Such shocking news spread like wildfire and spread throughout the wasteland like the wind. Soon, all the major forces in the wasteland learned of it. And the name of the Demon King, Yi Li, became a taboo. After staying in the Sword sect for a few days, Yi Li found it boring and planned to walk around the wasteland. He set off with the Apocalypse Legion. To his surprise, the scenery in this wasteland was really not bad. Then, he planned to go to a base city to take a look. This base city didn't look big, but it was much bigger than Annan Base City and Huangjiang Base City. As soon as he entered the base city, he found that it was very prosperous. There were many people coming and going. I heard that Miss Yu Ling of the Yu family was driven out by the Yu family. That's right. She shouldn't have provoked Yu Menger from the Yu family. This is going to be fun. Yu Ling from the Yu family is usually extremely arrogant in the H-base city. Now she has provoked someone she shouldn't have. Chapter 585, Since she said you would regret it, you would regret it uttered by Bexenville. A few genetic warriors whispered on the side of the road. Yu Ling. Yi Li thought for a moment and found the name familiar. A few seconds later, he remembered. In Yun City under the Cloud Peak Academy, he met a cocky girl named Yu Ling. Later, Yu Ling even asked him to protect her. After thinking about it, Yi Li found it a little funny. Cloud Peak Academy was in the Northern Realm, and this Yu Ling certainly wouldn't be that Yu Ling. Just as he was about to find a place to eat, he suddenly heard a loud shout. Miss Yu Ling has appeared. As soon as someone said so, the media ran over. This group of media surrounded Yu Ling. Miss Yu Ling, how do you feel about being kicked out of your family? Miss Yu Ling, Yu Menjur who you offended is the heavenly talent of City H. What do you think of this? Miss Yu Ling, may I ask where you are going now? The reporters began to scramble to ask questions. The girl was stunned to see so many reporters surrounding her. Go away. The girl said coldly. But how could the reporter be willing to listen to the girl? They still rushed to ask questions. Yi Li looked over and was really stunned. This was because the girl not far away was Yu Ling, whom he met in Yun City. Well, he didn't expect Yu Ling to be from the East Realm. This was interesting. Yi Li smiled. If you don't get out of the way, don't blame me for being rude. Yu Ling said coldly. But the reporters continued to ask as if they didn't hear Yu Ling at all. Yi Li thought that Yu Ling must have graduated from the Cloud Peak Academy and was now an 8th-tier evolved being. In his eyes, an 8th-tier evolved being was pitifully weak, but in this base city, he should be an absolute genius. Hey, isn't this Miss Yu? Suddenly, a voice entered everyone's ears. All the reporters looked in the direction of the voice and found that it was a girl. This girl had an extraordinary temperament. It was obvious that she was not from an ordinary family. Miss Yu, it's Miss Yu. All the reporters were a little happy. Then who was Miss Yu? It was none other than Yu Menjur, the eldest daughter of the Yu family, the first family in City 2, and a 10th-tier evolved being. Yu Menjur raised her arrogant head and slowly walked towards Yu Ling. When Yu Ling saw Yu Menjur, her fair face instantly turned cold as she stared at Yu Menjur. A few days ago, she was kicked out of her family because she offended Yu Menjur. Yu Menjur joined a sect not far from City H. This sect was powerful and was definitely not something the Yu family could resist. In fact, it wasn't that the Yu family chased her out, but that she took the initiative to quit the Yu family so as not to cause trouble for the Yu family. Yu Menjur walked to Yu Ling. The two girls were both very beautiful. At this moment, Yu Menjur was looking at Yu Ling with absolute pride. Yu Ling, now do you know the consequences of offending me? There was a hint of mockery on Yu Menjur's fair face. Seeing what Yu Menjur said, the reporters were all excited. This was simply tomorrow's top news. Yu Ling looked at Yu Menjur. Yu Menjur, you will regret it one day. Regret? Yu Menjur smiled. Unfortunately, I will never regret it. Since she said you would regret it, you will regret it. Suddenly, a magnetic voice echoed in the room. Chapter 586, Give him a slap in the face uttered by Bexenville. Everyone was shocked. They looked in the direction of the voice and found a handsome young man walking over slowly. Their eyes widened. They had never thought that there would be such a beautiful person in this world. Yu Menjur's eyes widened because Yi Li was too handsome. Yi Li had once promised Yu Ling to protect her, but he had never had a chance. Now that the opportunity had come, he had always been a person who kept his promise. Yi Li. Yu Ling's fair face was full of shock. She didn't know how many times she had heard Yi Li's name these days, and she knew that the demon king Yi Li was Yi Li from the Northern Realm, because Yi Li from the Northern Realm was also called the demon king Yi Li. However, she knew that Yi Li was already at the top of the wasteland. Anyone who mentioned his name couldn't help but tremble in fear. Even the Heavenly Blades sect had been destroyed. Who wouldn't be afraid? Now that Yi Li had appeared in front of her, how could she not be shocked? Who are you? Yu Menjie stared at Yi Li. Although Yi Li was extremely handsome, she knew that Yi Li was here to help Yu Ling. It doesn't matter what my name is. What matters is that you apologize to Yu Ling immediately, Yi Li slowly said. Hearing this, Yu Ling couldn't help but tremble. She looked at Yi Li's face in a daze and was extremely touched. Hearing Yi Li's words, the reporter's expressions became even more interesting. This was simply shocking news. What did you say? Yu Menjie felt that she had heard wrong. Yi Li smiled. I told you to apologize to Yu Ling, don't make me say it a third time. Yu Mengie's expression turned cold as she stared at Yi Li. Do you know who I am? Yu Menjie gritted her teeth and said coldly. I'm not interested in knowing who you are, Yi Li said slowly. Yu Menjie sneered. In her opinion, Yi Li was just a hothead with a good appearance. He didn't even know her and still dared to play the "Save the Damsel in Distress" show. What a joke. At this moment, a lot of onlookers had gathered. They were all here to watch the fun, but when they heard what Yi Li said, they couldn't help but be stunned. Who is this person? How dare he say such a thing to Miss Yu? Does he want to die? He might be here to save the damsel in distress. Unfortunately, he chose the wrong person and offended Miss Yu. It's obvious what will happen to him. Just wait and see. This person will pee his pants soon. The onlookers all looked at Yi Li with pity. Hearing the passers-by's words, Yu Mengie's fair face revealed a trace of smugness. She looked at Yi Li proudly. Now, you should know who I am, right? Yu Menjie said to Yi Li proudly. Yi Li's face was as calm as water. Then, he slowly shook his head. He really didn't understand why there were always people who refused to listen to him. Yu Ling, since she refuses to apologize, give her a slap. Yi Li looked at Yu Ling and said. What? As soon as he said this, everyone present gasped. They would never have dreamed that the person in front of them would be so arrogant. Yu Ling certainly didn't expect it either. She looked at Yi Li in shock. Just do it, Yi Li said again. Yu Menjie was stunned. Did this person think she was a little lamb waiting to be slaughtered? Then, she became angry. Chapter 587, Are You Convinced? Edited by Bexenville. The onlookers looked at Yi Li dumbfounded. They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen anyone as arrogant as Yi Li. Hearing this, Yu Ling looked at Yi Li and then at Yu Menjie. She slowly extended her hand. She knew that Yi Li was standing up for her. Since Yi Li had asked her to fight, she certainly had to fight. It just so happened that she had hated Yu Menjie for a long time. Seeing Yu Ling raise her hand, Yu Menjie couldn't help but tremble. She wouldn't have thought that Yu Ling was really going to slap her. Seeing this scene, everyone present was the same. However, Yu Menjie was the #1 heavenly talent in City H, a 10th tier transcender. Yu Ling was an 8th tier evolved being. Even if she wanted to fight, she couldn't beat Yu Menjie. You're really courting death. Yu Menjie sneered and was about to attack Yi Yueling first. Why can't my body move? Yu Menjie, who was about to attack, found that she couldn't move, and she couldn't help but be shocked. Clap. A crisp and loud slap entered everyone's ears, and they were dumbfounded. Yu Menjie felt that her face was burning. She was extremely angry. Since she was born, no one had dared to beat her, but now she was beaten by Yu Ling. Yu Ling, I want you to die. Yu Menjie screamed without caring about her image, like a shrew. Unfortunately, her body still couldn't move. Of course, all of this was done by Yili. Yuling didn't expect this either. She didn't expect Yumenger to let the slap land on her face without blocking or dodging. Are you convinced that I slapped you? Yili slowly walked to Yumenger and looked at her indifferently. Everyone present swallowed, thinking to themselves, what kind of logic is this? Why does she have to be convinced after being slapped? They had thought that Yili would end up in a miserable state, but now it seemed that there were many things they didn't expect. I can't move. Did you do that? Yumenger looked at Yili coldly. What do you think? Yili smiled, and a playful look appeared on his handsome face. Just now, he had bought a small immobilization skill in the Point Mall, but it could only be used once for half an hour. Although I don't know why you can make me unable to move, I'm from the Yu family. If you don't let me recover, I guarantee that you will die a horrible death. Yumenger said fiercely. As the saying went, a wasp's sting was the most poisonous, just like a vicious woman's heart. Humans. Yili looked at Yumenger casually. You don't look convinced, do you? Yuling, attack. Hearing this, a look of joy appeared on Yuling's fair face. She didn't slap Yumenger very hard just now because she knew that Yumenger would definitely block or dodge, but now, clap. This slap was much louder than before, making Yuling furious. Yumenger's face swelled almost in an instant, and she looked miserable. You. Yumenger was fuming with anger, but there was nothing she could do. The onlookers all looked at each other. They had just heard what Yumenger and Yili said. Yumenger said that her body couldn't move, which was done by the person in front of her. Chapter 588, Miserable Yumenger uttered by Bexenville. The onlookers thought of a possibility, which was that Yili must be a powerhouse. If he wasn't, he wouldn't be so arrogant. Most importantly, if he weren't a powerhouse, he wouldn't have been able to immobilize Yumenger's body. To make a 10th tier evolved being unable to move. No one could figure out what realm Yili was in. Even the onlookers could think of this, but Yumenger couldn't because she was too angry now. It'll make you die a horrible death. Yumenger roared. Yili shook his head slightly. Why was Yumenger unconvinced? Continue fighting, Yili slowly said to Yuling. Of course, Yuling was willing. She knew how powerful Yili was, and she also knew that Yumenger's sect was just a pitifully weak sect in front of Yili. Now that her backer was stronger, why would she be afraid of Yumenger? Clap. Another slap landed on Yumenger's face. The power of this slap was definitely not something the onlookers could imagine. Yumenger was about to cry. She was really about to cry. Since she was born, she had been the pearl of her family. No matter where she went, she was like the moon surrounded by stars. Now, she was actually humiliated in public. In addition to wanting to cry, she also had infinite anger in her heart that needed to be vented. She secretly vowed that she would definitely make Yili and Yuling die a horrible death. Are you convinced? Yili asked casually. Yumenger stared at Yili. She gritted her teeth and said coldly a few seconds later, I surrender. That's right. Let me tell you, no one in this world dares to disobey me. Yili said slowly. Everyone present was stunned when they heard this. Although they had guessed that Yili was a super strong genetic warrior, these words were too arrogant. As soon as Yili finished speaking, Yumenger's body could move. After Yumenger discovered that her body could move, she didn't choose to leave but attacked Yuling. The palm with purple spiritual energy suddenly slapped at Yuling. Purple spiritual energy, an SSS level genetic warrior. Yumenger was a 10th tier evolved being, and Yuling was an 8th tier evolved being. How could she withstand such an attack? Everyone's eyes widened. They didn't expect Yumenger to suddenly attack. Furthermore, at such a speed and distance, Yuling couldn't avoid it no matter what. But just as Yumenger's purple spiritual energy palm was about to hit Yuling's body, Yumenger was suddenly sent flying. How is this possible? Everyone present rubbed their eyes. They didn't see Yi Li or Yu Ling attack at all, but Yu Menjie was sent flying. If possible, they would rather believe they were mistaken. Yu Menjie fell heavily to the ground, and her already swollen face became even more swollen. She looked like a pig head. Seeing this scene, the reporters began to take pictures of Yu Menjie with their cameras. Yi Li didn't continue to look at Yu Menjie. He looked at Yu Ling and said indifferently, "Let's grab something to eat." Yu Ling nodded and left with Yi Li. Yu Menjie was an absolute influential figure in City H. Such a big event could still be kept a secret. It didn't take long for many families in City H to know. Yu Menjie was also taken back by the people of the Yu family. Everyone in the Yu family was extremely angry. To touch Yu Menjie in City H was tantamount to humiliating the Yu family. Chapter 589, a 10th tier evolved being who peed his pants in fright uttered by Bexenville. CM Yi Li and Yu Ling went to a restaurant and found a random seat. Yi Li, thank you. Yu Ling looked at Yi Li gratefully. Yu Ling was originally the #1 genius in City H, and people in the academy called her their big sister. At that time, she was arrogant and felt that the wasteland was boring, so she ran to the Cloud Peak Academy in the east. Later, Yu Menjie joined the Infinity Sect. After Yu Ling graduated from the Cloud Peak Academy, Yu Menjie became the #1 genius in City H. If that was all, she certainly didn't have to leave the Yu family. Most importantly, the young master of the Infinity Sect had a crush on Yu Menjie. After all, Yu Ling definitely couldn't afford to provoke the Infinity Sect. Fine. I didn't expect you to be from the Eastern Realm. Yi Li looked at Yu Ling and slowly said. Yu Ling smiled. Yi Li, you are too famous in the wasteland now. One feel I'm not even qualified to sit with you. Have you heard? The eldest daughter of the Yu family, Yu Menjie, was beaten by Yu Ling. What? Why haven't one heard of it? Yu Menjie was slapped 3 times by Yu Ling and almost beaten into a pig's head. It's simply tragic. Yes, there seems to be a youth helping Yu Ling. I don't know what secret method the youth used, but Yu Menjie's body can't move at all. Everyone in the restaurant began to whisper. At this moment, a group of genetic warriors from the Yu family rushed in. Everyone looked at the ferocious genetic warriors of the Yu family in fright. This group of genetic warriors from the Yu family all walked to Yi Li and Yu Ling. A 10th tier evolved being looked at Yi Li and Yu Ling coldly. Yu Ling, brat, do you know the consequences of offending the Yu family? The 10th tier evolved being shouted coldly. Everyone in the restaurant was stunned when they heard this. They knew who Yu Ling was. She was the eldest daughter of the Yu family, but she was kicked out by the Yu family a few days ago. Although Yu Ling was very famous, they had never seen her before, so they all stared at her. Yi Li smiled when he heard that. He looked at the 10th tier evolved being who spoke, then shook his head slightly and slowly said, "How dare a 10th tier evolved being ant clamor in front of me? What a joke." As soon as he said this, all the genetic warriors of the Yu family were shocked. They would never have dreamed that Yi Li would say such a thing. Everyone in the restaurant looked at each other in bewilderment. This was a genetic warrior from the Yu family. This person was too bold. The 10th tier evolved being looked at Yi Li angrily and roared, "Brat, you don't even know that you're about to die. Attack!" With an order, more than a dozen genetic warriors from the Yu family rushed towards Yi Li and Yu Ling. However, as soon as they took a step forward, their bodies seemed to freeze, and their faces were full of disbelief. This, the 10th tier evolved beings were horrified because more than 20 genetic warriors had a shocking bloody hole on their foreheads. Everyone in the restaurant gasped. They didn't see Yi Li attack at all, but these people, more than 20 genetic warriors of the Yu family, all fell to the ground. Even until they died, they didn't know how they died. As for the remaining 10th tier evolved being, he was so scared that he peed his pants. As the saying went, men didn't cry easily, only because he had to reach the depth of his sorrow. But this wasn't crying, but peeing in fright. Chapter 590, Come to Jiangkou District to synthesize zombies utted by Bexenville. CM the 10th tier evolved being was scared out of his wits and looked at Yili in horror. You. How did you do it? He naturally knew that Yuling definitely didn't have such strength to instantly kill more than 20 genetic warriors. Furthermore, they were all high-leveled evolved beings. The most terrifying thing was that he didn't even see how Yili did it. Yili smiled faintly. He looked at the 10th tier evolved being and slowly said, "You don't need to know anymore." Why? The 10th tier evolved being asked in shock. Because even if a dead man knows, it won't make any difference, Yili said frankly. As soon as he said this, the 10th tier evolved being took 3 steps back in fright. At this moment, there was only one word in his mind, which was to run. Immediately, the 10th tier evolved being turned around quickly and ran for his life as fast as he had ever run. Unfortunately, even the 10th tier evolved being became Monkey King now, he couldn't escape the palm of the Buddha. Swish! With a wind-breaking sound, the 10th tier evolved being fell to the ground. He didn't even have the time to scream before he said goodbye to this world forever. Everyone in the restaurant was trembling. They really didn't expect Yili to be so terrifying. Their faces were full of shock. Why are there always flies bothering me? Yili shook his head. A few seconds later, Yuling came back to her senses and looked at Yili in a daze. Yili. Yuling called out softly. Let's go. Yili looked at Yuling immediately. Yili and Yuling walked out of the restaurant. Yili, where are we going now? Yuling looked at Yili and asked. Go find trouble with the dark race members, Yili said. As soon as Yili came to the wasteland, he knew that there was also a dark temple in the wasteland. He had been in the wasteland for so long but still didn't know anything about the dark temple. Yuling was stunned. She didn't expect Yili to say such a thing at all. After taking a few steps, Yili turned around and looked at Yuling. By the way, do you know where there are members of the dark race? Yuling was stunned again and then nodded. Yili, there are dark race members in all the jurisdictions of City H. There are a large number of zombies in every district, led by a master-level dark race member, Yuling said. Take me there. Yili looked at Yuling. Then, Yuling led Yili to a place. Jiangkou District. This was the area with the most zombies in the various jurisdictions of City H. Not long ago, when the zombies broke through this place, countless citizens became zombies. The scene was indescribably gruesome. Yili released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space. Now, except for little Yuzhu, the Apocalypse Legion was all Lord-level zombies. Yuzhu was only a master-level zombie at the moment, whose level was too low. Roar! Roar! As soon as he arrived at the river entrance, countless zombies ran crazily towards Yili. 2 level 1 zombies synthesized into a level 2 zombie. 2 level 1 zombies synthesized into a level 2 zombie. Yili opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize the zombies in batches. Yuzhu has been upgraded to a Tier 2 master-level zombie. The system prompt rang in Yili's mind. Yili was very dissatisfied. This speed was too slow. Yuling had seen Yili's Apocalypse Legion in the Northern Realm. Now that she saw it again, although she was shocked, she wasn't that shocked. Yuling, you know the other zombies. Her name is Yuzhu. Her name is only one word different from yours, Yili said to Yuling. Chapter 591, The Yu family and the Yu family were at war utted by Bexenville. CM Yuling looked at little Yuzhu and felt that she was too cute. She had never seen such a cute zombie. Human, how dare you come here to slaughter zombies? You must be tired of living. A 10th-tier corpse king walked out. This 10th-tier corpse king was ugly and looked a little disgusting. Behind the 10th-tier corpse king was a large number of zombies, enough to make one's scalp tingle. Roar! Roar! With the 10th-tier corpse king's realm, how could he tell what levels of zombies the Apocalypse Legion was? He couldn't even tell what level little Yuzhu was. The 10th-tier corpse king looked at Yili arrogantly. Then, he looked at the Apocalypse Legion and was stunned. Human, why are there zombies around you? The 10th-tier corpse king couldn't figure out the reason no matter how hard he tried. Yili smiled calmly. Guess if I will tell you. As soon as he said this, the 10th-tier corpse king burst into fury. Human, if you don't tell me, you'll die. The 10th-tier corpse king roared. Eat them. As soon as the 10th-tier corpse king gave the order, thousands of zombies rushed towards Yili. Roar! Roar! Yili smiled. He could synthesize zombies again. Do it. Yili said lightly. As soon as he finished speaking, the 9 zombies of the Apocalypse Legion rushed out. Wherever the 9 zombies went, countless zombies fell. These thousands of zombies were nothing in front of them. In an instant, thousands of zombies fell to the ground. Yili opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize these zombies. Most of these zombies were advanced zombies. If they were all level 1 or level 2 zombies, he would go crazy. Yuzhu has been upgraded to a tier 3 master level zombie. The 10th tier corpse king was stunned. He couldn't believe it even if he died. You, how could the 10th tier corpse king say a complete sentence? Roar! Bai Wawa stepped on the leg of the 10th tier zombie king, letting him experience the power of the iron-footed zombie. The leg of the 10th tier corpse king was instantly broken. The 10th tier corpse king let out a fierce roar, which made one's scalp tingle. After Yili synthesized the little Yuzhu into a level 3 tier 3 master level zombie, there was only a 10th tier male zombie left. Just in time. Yili directly synthesized this 10th tier corpse king. Yuling swallowed and took a few deep breaths. She had a feeling that Yili was the strongest person in the world. Yili looked at Yuling and suddenly asked, "Are you shocked?" Yuling was shocked. She didn't expect Yili to suddenly say such a thing. Before she could answer, she heard Yili say again, "Don't be shocked forever, because everything I do will shock you for 3 days and 3 nights." Hearing this, Yuling was even more shocked. Yili secretly shook his head. This was always the case. No matter who was faced with such a scene, they would always be shocked. Perhaps, this was Yili's charm. Immediately, Yili asked the Apocalypse Legion to gather the zombies. "Let's go back to H City." Yili looked at Yuling and said. But the Apocalypse Legion, Yuling looked at Yili in confusion. Yili smiled. "Don't worry." Then, Yili and Yuling returned to City H. As soon as he arrived in City 2, he heard someone say that the Yu family and the Yu family were at war. When Yuling heard this, her fair face immediately looked extremely worried. Yili. Yuling looked at Yili anxiously. Chapter 592, Hand over Yuling uttered by Bexenville. CM After Yili asked about the location of the Yu family, he held Yuling's hand and activated the swift steps to arrive outside the Yu family. At this moment, the Yu family was in a mess, and many disciples of the Yu family fell to the ground. There was still a lot of blood on the ground. It seemed that the disciples of the Yu family had been beaten up badly. "Yu Qian, how are you?" Seeing Yu Qian, who was on good terms with her, Yuling walked forward and hurriedly asked. "Don't touch me." Yu Qian didn't give Yuling any face at all. She shook off Yuling's hand and shouted coldly at Yuling, "Yu Qian, what's wrong?" Yuling was a little stunned. Yu Qian sneered. Yu Ling, if it weren't for you, would our Yu family have suffered this disaster? After Yu Ling graduated from the Cloud Peak Academy, she hadn't seen Yu Menger. Later, when Yu Menger returned to City H, the two met. Then what happened next happened. The disciples of the Yu family all looked at Yu Ling with hatred. After all, their Yu family was a big family in City H. Now that they had become like this, they would have to behave with their tails between their legs in City H in the future. Sorry, I didn't expect, Yu Ling almost cried. If she had known at that time that Yu Menger had already joined the Infinity Sect and that the young master of the Infinity Sect liked Yu Menger, she would definitely not have had a conflict with Yu Menger. But before Yu Ling could finish speaking, Yu Qian interrupted her. At this point, what's there to be hypocritical about? In the past, you relied on the fact that you are the number one genius of the Yu family. Who do you respect in the Yu family? Yu Qian stared at Yu Ling and said coldly. Yi Li listened to this conversation. Although Yu Ling wasn't a bad person, sometimes it was like this. People always liked to look down on others. Just like many people felt that they could kill him. At this moment, an injured middle-aged man quickly walked out. The middle-aged man was a fifth-tier transcender. Dad! When Yu Ling saw the middle-aged man, she hurriedly called him. The middle-aged man's name was Yu Cheng, and he was the son of Yu Kuan, the head of the Yu family. Yu Cheng quickly walked to Yu Ling's side and immediately said to Yu Ling in a low voice, "Linger, leave City H quickly and never come back." Yu Ling was a little stunned. She didn't understand why her father would say such a thing. At this moment, a few more genetic warriors of the Yu family walked out. These genetic warriors were all above the age of 60. They were all transcender and elders of the Yu family. Quickly leave. Yu Qing shouted at Yu Ling and then stood in front of her. Yi Li had been silent on the side. The way Yu Qing protected Yu Ling really touched his heartstrings. The three elders of the Yu family were also injured. They walked to Yu Qing angrily, and the disciples of the Yu family all stood behind the three elders. Yu Qing. Do you still want to protect her? An elder shouted angrily. I thought that she was not bad since she had left the family, but after she left the family, she did that kind of thing. She deserves to be killed. Another elder roared. That kind of thing. Of course, he was referring to Yu Ling beating Yu Menger up. Now as long as we hand Yu Ling over to the Yu family, this matter can be resolved. Yu Cheng, you are also a disciple of the Yu family. Do you want to see the Yu family become like this? An elder who had a good relationship with Yu Cheng said to him. Chapter 593 I didn't want to say my name uttered by Bexenville. CM Yu Cheng looked at the elder who spoke. Third uncle, tell father not to hand over Linger. Yu Cheng's father was naturally Yu Kuan, the head of the Yu family. Alas! The third elder sighed heavily. If we don't hand over Linger, the entire Yu family will be in danger. You should know how powerful the Infinity Sect is. A bitter smile appeared on Yu Cheng's face. At this moment, he didn't know what to do. A small Infinity Sect actually makes you so afraid. This is sad. A sudden voice entered everyone's ears. Everyone from the Yu family looked in the direction of the voice and found that it was a handsome young man. Who are you? Yu Qian looked at Yi Li coldly. Everyone in the Yu family looked at Yi Li, wondering who this handsome young man in front of them was. Flo dare he interrupt on such an occasion? Yi Li smiled and looked at the sun in the sky. A few seconds later, he looked at Yu Qian and slowly said, Actually, one don't want to say who I am. Why? Don't you have a name? Yu Qian's voice became colder. The people of the Yu family didn't understand either. He didn't want to say his name. What was the reason? Of course I have a name, and my name seems to be quite famous. Yi Li slowly said. Yu Qian sneered. In her opinion, Yili was either a lunatic or a fool. Since you're very famous, why don't you want to say it? Yu Qian questioned coldly. Because I'm afraid 111 scare you half to death, Yili said indifferently. As soon as he said this, everyone in the Yu family was stunned. They even felt that they had heard wrong. Could this person's name scare them half to death? Brat, I'm a little interested in your name now. Tell me your name, or you will die. The grand elder of the Yu family stared at Yili and said. Yili's handsome face was as calm as water. He looked at the grand elder indifferently. Do you really want to know my name? Yes. Yili secretly sighed. In fact, he really didn't want to say his name, but since they all wanted to know, he would satisfy their curiosity. My name is Yili, but many people choose to call me Yili, but the Demon King. Yili. Yili slowly said. What? When Yili finished speaking, everyone in the Yu family gasped and looked at Yili dumbfounded. Demon King Yili. This was the most famous powerhouse in the wasteland recently. He led the sword sect to destroy the Heavenly Blade sect. However, the news that Yili killed the Qiankuan Broadsword Master didn't spread, because when the Qiankuan Broadsword Master came to the wasteland from the Mystic Land, no one knew, not even the people from the Four Weapons Hall. Demon King Yili, the man with the Apocalypse Legion. He led the sword sect to destroy the #1 sect in the wasteland, the Heavenly Blade sect. I heard that the zombies in the Apocalypse Legion are all Lord-level zombies. Some time ago, in various places in the wasteland, Lord-level zombies led an army of zombies to pass by. I also heard that the Demon King Yili is not a member of the Dark Race, but a human. However, he is the only person in the world who can control zombies. Everyone in the Yu family was horrified. The words, Demon King Yili, struck them like a bolt from the blue. The three elders and Yu Cheng also looked deeply afraid. Yu Qian sneered. She stared at Yili and said, just because you said you are the Demon King Yili doesn't mean you're really the Demon King Yili. Chapter 594 I am really the Demon King, Yili uttered by Bexenville. Everyone from the Yu family was stunned when they heard Yu Qian's words. They thought for a moment and found that what Yu Qian said made sense. The young man's words weren't enough to prove that he was the Demon King, Yili. For a moment, the three elders of the Yu family couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Yili secretly smiled. No one would believe the truth these days. What was the reason? You must be the person who made you Menjur unable to move. Although you are very strong, you are definitely not the Demon King Yili. It's impossible for a big shot like the Demon King Yili to come here. Yu Qian spoke as if she had really seen through everything. Yu Menjur was a 10th tier evolved being, and Yili could immobilize a 10th tier evolved being. Anyone could guess that Yili was definitely not weaker than a 10th tier evolved being. Yili looked at Yu Qian, and a playful look appeared on his handsome face. I'm really the Demon King, Yili. Why don't you believe me? Yili said casually. Hearing Yili's words, Yu Qian was even more certain that the person in front of her was not the Demon King Yili. After saying so much, who is Yu Qian? Among the younger generation of the Yu family, Yu Qian was second only to Yu Ling, a 7th tier evolved being. Tell me who you are, the Grand Elder said coldly to Yili. That's right. Demon King Yili. What a joke. When Yu Ling heard this, her heart almost stopped beating. She knew much more than the people of the Yu family what kind of person Yili was. Stop it. He's really the Demon King, Yili. Yu Ling hurriedly said. If this continued, Yili might instantly turn the Yu family into powder before the Yu family took action. As soon as Yu Ling said this, everyone from the Yu family was stunned again and didn't say anything for a long time. Yu Qian's expression turned cold. Yu Ling, do you really think we don't know that you said this to protect him? It just so happens that the two of you are here. If we hand you over to the Yu family, our Yu family will be safe. Good idea, Qianer, the Grand Elder said. Grand Elder Yushan was Yu Qian's biological grandfather. He was deeply gratified to see his granddaughter so bold. Upon hearing this, Yuling hurriedly looked at Yili. Seeing that Yili's face was as calm as water, she heaved a sigh of relief. Grandpa, do you know what you are doing? Yuling sighed and said. Linger, don't be rude. Yu Qing scolded. Yili listened to them and thought that the Yu family was quite interesting. It seemed that their relationship was very harmonious. There were not many families like the post-apocalyptic world. You should be glad. If it weren't for Yuling, you would be dead now, Yili said indifferently. He said this to scare the Yu family. Of course, he wouldn't let such an interesting family perish. But to his surprise, the people of the Yu family were not afraid. Instead, they all revealed extremely angry expressions. Brat, you're pretending to be the Demon King, Yili, and you're still so rude. I think you won't cry until you see the coffin. The Grand Elder shouted angrily. Yili secretly smiled. Why did people always say that he wouldn't shed a tear until he saw the coffin? I, Yili, won't cry even if one see a coffin, because one will never need a coffin. Yili slowly said. When the people of the Yu family heard this, they were instantly furious. At this moment, a Yu family disciple hurriedly ran out and shouted in horror, Elders, the family head is dying. Chapter 595, Of course to save the head of your Yu family uttered by Bexenville. CM When everyone from the Yu family heard this, they couldn't help but tremble. The family head is dying. The Grand Elder looked at the confinement disciple in shock. Yes, elders, go in and take a look, the Yu family disciple hurriedly said. When the 3 elders of the Yu family heard this, they couldn't care less and all walked in. Yu Qing hurriedly followed her in. Yuling's fair face was filled with shock. Her grandfather had treated her the best when he was alive, but now. Immediately, Yuling looked extremely sad. If it weren't for her, the Yu family wouldn't have come to cause trouble for the Yu family. It wasn't until now that Yuling realized how willful she was. In this world, there were some people who couldn't be provoked. Yuling had already understood this principle. Do you blame yourself? Yili looked at Yuling and said lightly. This matter was more or less related to Yili. Yili certainly wouldn't stand by and do nothing. Yuling was stunned. She didn't expect Yili to say such a thing. She looked at Yili, not knowing how to answer. It's okay. One can save your grandfather. Yili slowly said. Yuling was shocked and looked at Yili in a daze. Yili, is what you said true? Yili smiled faintly. Do you think I, Yili, need to lie to you? As soon as he finished speaking, Yili was about to walk into the Yu family. But as soon as he took a step forward, a group of disciples of the Yu family stopped him. You can't go in without orders. A disciple of the Yu family looked at Yili coldly. Yili didn't understand. He really didn't understand why there were always so many ignorant people. Suddenly, the dozen or so Yu family disciples blocking in front of him were all sent flying. The entire process was smooth and happened even within less than a second. More than a dozen Yu family disciples fell heavily to the ground. They felt that their internal organs were about to be displaced. They looked at Yili in horror. They didn't see how Yili attacked at all, but they were sent flying. Yuling was still frozen like a clay sculpture. Yili looked at her and slowly said, let's go. Then, Yili and Yuling walked into the Yu family. After walking into the Yu family, Yili found that the Yu family was also in a mess, looking a little miserable. Yili, I'll take you to my grandfather's room. Yuling said to Yili. Yili nodded. Then, Yili and Yuling went to Yukun's room. Yukun was the head of the Yu family, a 10th-tier transcender. In the H-base city, his strength was definitely terrifying. Yu Ling took Yili to Yu Kun's room and found that the door was not closed. Several cries came from inside. Hearing such cries, Yu Ling's tears fell. "Grandpa!" Yu Ling called softly. At this moment, the third elder of the Yu family walked out of the room and looked at Yili and Yu Ling coldly. "What are you doing here?" The third elder's expression was extremely cold. "Third Grandpa, Before Yu Ling finished speaking, she was interrupted by Yili to save the head of the Yu family, of course, Yili said slowly. Hearing this, the third elder couldn't help but tremble and look at Yili in shock. What did you say?" Yili didn't continue to speak but walked into the room. Seeing this, for some reason, the third elder didn't stop Yili but let him enter the room. Chapter 596, Saved Yukun Utted by Bexenville. CM Yili walked into the room and saw the old man on the bed. His breath was extremely weak and there were many wounds on his body. He didn't look like he would live long. The old man was naturally Yukun, the head of the Yu family. When the people of the Yu family came to cause trouble, he led the Yu family to resist with all their strength. However, the difference in strength between the Yu family and the Yu family was too great. Yukun was seriously injured in the battle with the head of the Yu family. "Why did you come in?" The grand elder stared at Yili. As soon as he said this, everyone in the room turned around. Many people had never seen Yili before. In addition to sadness, there was also a hint of confusion on their faces. "First Grandpa, Yili is here to save Grandpa," Yu Ling hurriedly explained. "Save Grandpa?" Yu Qian snorted coldly. She stared at Yili and said coldly, "Do you really think he is the Demon King, Yili?" Hearing this, Yili naturally didn't want to talk to an ant like Yu Qian. He slowly raised his palm, and a white spiritual energy appeared in his palm. In the room, everyone's pupils were constricted when they saw the white spiritual energy in Yili's hand. White spiritual energy. Heaven-defying level genetic talent. For the people of the Yu family, they had only heard of a heaven-defying level genetic warrior in legends. Now that a real heaven-defying level genetic warrior had appeared in front of them, they were almost shocked to death. You're actually a heaven-tier heaven-defying level genetic warrior? The grand elder of the Yu family looked at Yili in shock. Yili ignored the grand elder, and a gentle white spiritual energy slowly entered the body of the old man on the bed. No one from the Yu family resisted because they couldn't feel any threat from this white spiritual energy. The white spiritual light in Yili's palm kept entering Yukun's body. A few seconds later, everyone from the Yu family in the room was stunned. This was because they saw that the wounds on Yukun's body were recovering at a visible speed. How is this possible? The grand elder of the Yu family was horrified. His eyes had widened to the largest size in history. Then, Yili retracted his palm, and the white spiritual energy suddenly stopped. Yukun, the head of the Yu family, got up from the bed as if nothing had happened. What's going on? Yukun touched his head. Obviously, he was a little confused. Everyone in the Yu family in the room froze as if they were petrified. Everything that had just happened was too unbelievable in their eyes. Yu Qian was the most shocked. She had already firmly believed that the person in front of her couldn't be the Demon King Yili, but now, such firm belief was shaken. On the other hand, Yili's handsome face didn't change at all, as if he was doing something trivial. Grandpa, Yili saved you. Yu Ling was the first to come back to her senses and said to Yukun. Yukun was stunned. He muttered to himself, Yili. He felt that this name was extremely familiar. After thinking for a few seconds, the pupils of Yukun couldn't help but constrict. Are you the Demon King, Yili? Yukun looked at Yili in shock. That's right. I am the Demon King, Yili. Yili slowly said. He felt that there was nothing to hide. Hearing Yi Li's words, Yu Kun hurriedly knelt in front of Yi Li. Lord Demon King, please save the Yu family. Chapter 597, The Grand Elder of the Yu family came to visit Udtid by Bexenville. Seeing the head of the Yu family, Yu Kun, kneel, everyone in the Yu family couldn't help being startled. They didn't expect their leader to suddenly kneel. At this moment, an idea popped up in the minds of the people of the Yu family. That was, the person in front of him was really the Demon King Yi Li. Thinking of this, everyone in the Yu family in the room trembled and broke into a cold sweat. What are you waiting for? Kneel. Yu Kun scolded. Yu Kun knew very well that he was going to die just now, but Yi Li could save him from the brink of death. No one would believe that he wasn't the Demon King Yi Li. After the family head spoke, everyone in the Yu family knelt on the ground, including Yu Ling. This was Demon King Yi Li. Yi Li, the Demon King who led the Sword Sect to destroy the Heavenly Blade Sect. Compared to the Heavenly Blade Sect, the Yu family and the Infinity Sect were nothing. Yi Li didn't expect these people to suddenly kneel on the ground. Get up. Yu Ling is my friend. Yi Li slowly said. When everyone in the Yu family heard this, they couldn't help but be shocked. They looked at Yi Li in shock. Yu Ling was a friend of the Demon King, Yi Li. Of course, they knew how great a blessing it was to become a friend of the Demon King, Yi Li. Hearing Yi Li's words, Yu Kun, the head of the Yu family, didn't insist. He hurriedly got up from the ground. He knew that an existence like the Demon King, Yi Li, didn't like to say the same thing twice. After Yu Kun got up, everyone in the Yu family in the room also got up. Yu Qian, on the other hand, felt ashamed. Earlier, outside the Yu family, she questioned Yi Li with absolute arrogance. She also believed that Yi Li couldn't be the Demon King, Yi Li. But now that such a situation had happened, what else could she do except to be ashamed? She buried her head deeply. Now Yu Qian felt that as long as she looked at Yi Li, her heart would be attacked by 10,000 points. Unfortunately, there were some things that she couldn't hide from. Yi Li looked at Yu Qian and said indifferently, Now, do you believe that 1 a.m. the Demon King Yi Li? As soon as he said this, Yu Qian and the 3 elders of the Yu family wished they could find a hole to hide in. Master Demon King, I really didn't expect an existence like you to be friends with Linger. Yu Kun, the head of the Yu family, was overjoyed. With such a reputation, no one in the entire city dared to provoke his Yu family. Who wasn't afraid of the Demon King Yi Li? Grand Elder, Grand Elder. At this moment, another Yu family disciple ran into the room. The Yu family disciple looked deeply horrified, as if he had seen something extremely terrifying. Before this Yu family disciple could speak, he saw the family head and couldn't help but take 3 steps back in fright. He rubbed his eyes and felt that he had seen wrongly. But no matter how he rubbed his eyes, the result was the same. Family head, are you okay? This disciple of the Yu family was stunned. Everyone knew that Yu Kun was seriously injured in the battle with the head of the Yu family, but now he was standing here as if nothing had happened. Tell me what it is. Yu Kun said in a low voice. Only then did the disciples of the Yu family remember that he was here to report something big. Family head, the Grand Elder of the Yu family is here. What? When everyone in the Yu family heard this, they were all stunned. It hadn't been long since the Yu family people left the Yu family, and now they were here again. Did they really think the Yu family was easy to bully? Chapter 598, State Your Purpose. Uttered by Bexenville. Everyone in the Yu family was furious. Yi Li. Yu Ling looked at Yi Li. Yi Li's handsome face showed a playful smile. He thought to himself, the Yu family is simply courting death. This is interesting. Let's go out and take a look. Yi Li slowly said. Immediately, everyone from the Yu family followed Yili out of the Yu family. After arriving outside the Yu family, he found an old man in his 60s. The old man's eyes were shining like lightning, and his face was pale gold. The old man was none other than the grand elder of the Yu family, Yu Tong, a 10th-tier transcender. Seeing the people from the Yu family come out, Yu Tong put on a smug smile. But in the next second, he couldn't laugh anymore. This was because he saw Yu Kun, the head of the Yu family. How is it possible? Yu Kun was shocked to the extreme. He had personally seen the family head seriously injure Yu Kun, but now Yu Kun was unscathed. This was simply unbelievable. Yu Tong, what do you want? Yu Kun said coldly to Yu Tong. After all, Yu Tong was the grand elder of the Yu family and had encountered countless unbelievable things. Hearing Yu Kun's words, he came back to his senses. Yu Kun, I didn't expect your Yu family to have such divine medicine. You were so seriously injured, but you're actually fine now. Yu Tong looked at Yu Kun in disdain. In his opinion, Yu Kun must have taken some shocking divine medicine. Otherwise, even if he didn't die, he would have to lie in bed for at least half a year. Before Yu Kun could speak, Yili spoke first. Tell me your purpose. Yili looked at Yu Tong indifferently. Yu Tong was stunned. He looked Yili up and down. Obviously, he didn't know Yili. Who are you? Do you have a say here? Yu Tong looked at Yili disdainfully. Yili smiled. Let me ask you again. Tell me your purpose. Don't make me say it a third time. Ha ha ha. Yu Tong threw his head back and laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke he had ever had. Brat, how bold are you? How dare you talk to me like this? What a joke. In Yu Tong's opinion, Yili was just a pitifully weak ant. Such an ant should have been groveling in front of him, but he still showed such a domineering posture. Yili shook his head slightly. He didn't understand why someone always asked him to say his words a third time. Yili slowly raised his index finger, and then a terrifying white spiritual attack shot at Yu Tong at an astonishing speed. Yu Tong's eyes widened, and his old face fell. He found that he couldn't dodge such an attack. Oh! A pig-like scream sounded in the ears of everyone from the Yu family. A shocking bloody hole had appeared on the right leg of Yu Tong, the grand elder of the Yu family. Yu Tong fell to the ground, screaming. Everyone from the Yu family was stunned. They never expected Yili's casual blow to be so terrifying. Yu Qian had a trace of hope before, but now with Yili's attack, this trace of hope had completely disappeared. Demon King Yili. Ever since they destroyed the Heavenly Blade sect, they had become an existence that countless people in the wasteland couldn't even dream of. Now, such an existence had appeared in front of them. Yili slowly walked to Yu Tong, his face still expressionless. He slowly said, Now, can you tell me the purpose of your trip? Chapter 599, Get your family head to kowtow and apologize to me. Everyone from the Yu family looked at Yili's slightly thin back in horror. They all looked at each other in bewilderment. Although the Demon King Yili was famous, they had never seen him before and couldn't understand how terrifying he was. Now that they saw it, they almost couldn't breathe. This pressure was too terrifying. Yu Tong was still screaming like a pig being slaughtered. How could he still hear Yili's words? Oh! It hurts. Yu Tong rolled crazily on the ground, his eyes bloodshot from the pain. Although Yu Tong was a 10th-tier transcender, he wasn't immune to pain. The white spiritual light attack from Yili carried a penetrating and bone-piercing effect. Once it hit, the sensation was beyond imagination. Seeing that Yu Tong had no intention of answering, Yili couldn't help shaking his head slightly. Swish! Another wind-breaking sound sounded, followed by another shrill scream. Oh! Another bloody hole appeared on Yu Tong's other leg. Blood fell to the ground drop by drop. When everyone from the Yu family saw this scene, they were dumbfounded. They even held their breath, feeling an unprecedented pressure. Now, can you tell me? Yi Li slowly said to Yu Tong. When Yu Tong heard this, he was so frightened that his soul was gone. A chill ran from his tailbone to the top of his head. At this moment, he couldn't care less about the pain. He looked at Yi Li in horror. We know that Yu Ling and that unknown youth have returned to the Yu family, so I'm here to ask the Yu family to hand them over. Yu Tong was about to cry. He had never felt so much pain since he was born, but now he had met a devil like Yi Li. No. Yi Li was definitely not a devil, but a demon king. Yi Li smiled. The unknown youth you mentioned is me. When Yu Tong heard this, he was even more frightened. He had never been so afraid. He had really never been so afraid. Go. Tell the head of your Yu family that one want him to kowtow to me and apologize. Otherwise, the consequences will be serious. Yi Li slowly said. Hearing this, Yu Tong seemed to be reborn, but he couldn't stand up anymore and could only crawl away. However, even if he crawled, he was much faster than ordinary people because he was a 10th tier transcender. Everyone from the Yu family looked at Yu Tong, who was crawling quickly. They were all dumbfounded. Yu Tong's desire to survive was too strong. Yi Li didn't continue to look at Yu Tong. His face was still indifferent, as if he had just done something trivial. Then, he walked into the Yu family. Everyone in the Yu family now knew that Yi Li was the demon king Yi Li that they couldn't even look up to. The demon king Yi Li was their backer. What were they afraid of now? Nothing. Some children even wondered how they would walk in City H in the future, whether they should walk straight or walk sideways. After arriving at the Yu family's hall, Yu Kun hurriedly invited Yi Li to take a seat. After Yi Li sat down, the Yu family served tea and water. Demon King Yi Li, one really don't know how to thank you. Yu Kun looked at Yi Li gratefully. Yi Li's handsome face was as calm as water. He slowly said, You don't have to thank me. Everything I did was just because I'm Yu Ling's friend. Chapter 600, All the soldiers of Yu family attacked. When the people in the Yu family's hall heard Yi Li's words, they naturally understood what Yi Li meant. From now on, Yu Ling's status in the Yu family would reach an unprecedented level. By the way, Yu Ling, it's boring in City H. Why don't you go to the sword sect? 111 asked Gao Feng to take you as his disciple, Yi Li suddenly said to Yu Ling. Yu Ling was shocked and looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li, is what you said true? No one was unwilling to go higher, and no water was unwilling to flow lower. Do you think he'll lie? Yi Li slowly said. Hearing this, Yu Ling was naturally overjoyed. Entering the sword sect was the dream of countless young people in the wasteland. When Yu Qian heard this, she regretted it. She regretted it extremely. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Yu Qian was a 7th tier evolved being, and Yi Li was a tier 3 chosen one. The gap in strength was even greater than the sky. He naturally wouldn't bicker with a person like Yu Qian. Of course, Yi Li had already seen Yu Qian's regret. Yi Li looked at Yu Ling again and found that Yu Ling was also looking at Yu Qian with a strange expression. Don't regret it. You can also go to the sword sect, but Gao Feng probably won't take you in as his disciple. You can become the disciple of any peak master. Yi Li looked at Yu Qian and slowly said. When Yu Qian heard this, her body trembled, and her fair face was full of shock. She never expected Yi Li to say such a thing. Everyone from the Yu family was overjoyed. The two geniuses of the Yu family had entered the sword sect. Now that the Heavenly Blades sect had been destroyed, their Yu family's future achievements could be said to be limitless. Thank you, Demon King. Yu Qian hurriedly knelt on the ground, her fair face full of gratitude. Yi Li waved his hand. He didn't like others kneeling in front of him, but there were always people doing this. There was nothing he could do. At the same time, he knew that it wouldn't be long before the head of the Yu family knelt in front of him. He had never been a good person. But he had promised to protect Yu Ling in the Cloud Peak Academy, so he certainly had to keep his word. A moment later, a smile appeared on Yili's handsome face. Finally. Then, Yili got up from his seat and slowly walked out of the hall. The people from the Yu family in the hall were a little confused, but since the Demon King Yili had walked out, they followed closely behind. After arriving outside the Yu family, they understood why Yili came out. It was because the people from the Yu family had already arrived, and all of them had been deployed. Yu family? An old man said coldly. This old man was none other than the head of the Yu family, Yu Wuyun, a Tier 1 transcender. When Yutong crawled back to the Yu family, he had already told him everything. His expression immediately turned cold. He didn't expect Yutong to be so seriously injured, nor did he expect someone to demand him to kowtow and admit his mistake. In City H, the Yu family had always been the overlord. It wouldn't end well for anyone who provoked them. Yu Wuyun looked at the boy in front of him coldly and sneered. You must be the boy who injured Yutong. Everyone from the Yu family was stunned when they heard this, because this boy looked too young. That's right. Kowtow and apologize to me. Don't make me angry. Yili looked at Yu Wuyun and slowly said. Hearing this, everyone in the Yu family was shocked. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.